Welcome to Wrexham Mineral Cables. We're the UK's largest mineral insulated cable manufacturer, and our products are available throughout the City Electrical Factor branch network. We operate a unique continuous manufacturing process from our purpose-built facility at Wrexham. Over the next few minutes, we're going to tell you all about mineral insulated cables and explain to you exactly how special they are. But you can't beat a simple demonstration to prove the point, so we're going to compare the performance of 3 fire-resistant polymeric cables available from leading manufacturers. That's A to C, and the one at the bottom is from Wrexham Mineral Cables. Now this red box is an oven. What we're going to do is place a metre length of polymeric cable into a tube and then put another open box over the exposed end so you can actually see what happens to the cable. Let's now boost the oven to 550 degrees centigrade. We've taken all of this footage using a time-lapse camera, so try to imagine that this cable is in a building or a tunnel where there's a dramatic increase in heat. This is a cable from manufacturer A. Keep an eye on the timer. Now, after around about 75 seconds, just notice the first whiff of smoke. This will be the outer sheath and the fire-resistant material that's wrapped around the copper cables starting to smoulder, because once the cable is subjected to increased temperature, the polymers begin to rapidly break down and produce dense white smoke. As you'll see later, this does not happen with Wrexham Mineral Cables. And by the time we get to 6 minutes, smoke's now pouring out of the tube. Imagine if this was some ducting in a building, and notice how the smoke settles into the bottom of the box. Generally, the advice if you're caught in a building where there is smoke is for you to crawl along the floor because smoke rises to the ceiling. As you can see, this smoke doesn't play by the rules. Think this is just ordinary smoke? Well, watch what happens when we introduce a flame. Not only do we get an explosion, but as you can see now, the cable is well and truly alight. Okay, let's assume it's now possible to extinguish the flame, but the only snag is that if another flame or spark comes in contact with the smoke, it reignites straight away, so let's put out the fire. To be honest, we could have been here all day repeating this exercise, because this is the problem with the sort of fire-resistant cable which, we must stress, complies with the main British and European standards BS 7846 and BS 6387 Category C, W and Z. In these tests, we show that when it comes to electrical cables resisting an attack from fire, that mineral insulated cables are the only true fire survival cables. In fact, the polymeric cables will actually create the potential for an explosion merely by exposure to increased temperature. Let's now try a cable from another of the UK's leading fire-resistant polymeric cable manufacturers. Same oven, same 550 degree temperatures. And rather worryingly, we had smoke appearing after only 20 seconds. And after only 6 minutes, well, it's going to be easy to ignite that smoke, and as with our first test, the cable will burn freely with the flames steadily increasing. In other words, with this sort of cable, once it's alight, it will also feed the fire. And don't forget, all of this is happening with only a single metre of cable. Imagine a tunnel where there could be thousands of metres. BS 7846 cables are marketed as being suitable for use in public buildings, constructions such as hospitals, theatres, shopping centres, schools, power stations, petrochemical plants, underground railways, indeed anywhere where the danger to life, equipment and structures is greatly increased in the event of a fire. Would you feel confident being in a building with these cables? Yes, they meet the standards, but here at Wrexham Mineral Cables, we feel those standards do not go far enough. We estimate that on a 10 metre length of polymeric fire-resistant cable with 3 1.5mm square conductors, an additional 2,500 watts of energy will be added to a fire from the primary conductor insulation alone. You've seen what happens in our tests with a short length of cable. I'll let you use your imagination to visualise what would happen, for example, in a tunnel or a hospital where there are thousands of metres of cable. With mineral cable, this will not happen. When it comes to fire-resistant cables, the design and construction should be such as to limit the amount of smoke to the absolute minimum in all conditions. Let's now go to cable C. Same situation, another polymeric fire-resistant cable from a leading manufacturer. Again, we have smoke within 30 seconds, but this time we can ignite the smoke with only 4.5 minutes on the clock. Keep an eye on that. Now, I'm sure you got the picture about polymeric so-called fire-resistant cables. We tested them against Rexam mineral insulated cable, which is manufactured and LPCB approved to BS-EN 60702 Part 1 2002, as well as BS 6387CW and Z. As you'd expect, Rexam mineral insulated cable meets British and European standards, but Rexam mineral insulated cable does more than just meet these standards, it exceeds them. So, here we go again. Another meter length of cable, 550 degree oven, but this is Rexam mineral insulated cable. You'll have spotted some smoke. This is from the low smoke zero halogen outer sheath. Now, we should stress that you do not need an outer sheath. In many modern constructions, the cable can be left as it is with a bare copper outer sheath. In those cases, there would be no smoke at all. And after 3 minutes or so, the outer sheath has disappeared, the smoke is reducing, and by the time we get to 5 minutes, it's gone altogether. And just look at what's left of the cables. The 3 upper fire-resistant polymeric cables are in a terrible state. The Rexam mineral insulated cable at the bottom, still in perfect working order. Rexam mineral insulated cables are the only true fire survival cable. Let's now do a similar test, but this time expose the cables to a naked flame. And notice how quickly smoke starts to appear from the 3 fire-resistant polymeric cables. Keep an eye on the timer. Smoke appeared after only 30 seconds, and by the time we got to 3 minutes, it's easy to ignite the smoke. If we extinguish the flame, as you can see, it instantly reignites. In other words, again, polymeric fire-resistant cables will feed a fire. With the Rexam mineral insulated cable, this will not happen. And also, please notice the hot, waxy liquid dropping from the cables. Right, let's insert 3 similar lengths of Rexam mineral insulated cable. Please note that these 3 cables do not have a polymeric outer sheath. When we reached 3 minutes with the other cables, smoke was pouring from the tube and we could easily start a fire. With the Rexam mineral insulated cables, no smoke, no fire, nothing. These cables will continue to operate in temperatures as high as 1083 degrees centigrade, which is the melting point of copper. And here's another advantage. Mineral insulated cable is made from inorganic materials and is therefore essentially non-aging in most conditions, meaning it's highly unlikely that you'll need to replace that cable in the future. Here's a final test. Once a cable has been installed in a building, you'd hope that it'll be used sensibly, but what happens if the cable is overloaded? Well, we know what'll happen. Heat is generated within the cable and it can start a fire. Here we have 2 lengths of cable. The cable at the top is Rexam mineral cable. The cable at the bottom is a polymeric fire-resistant cable from a well-known manufacturer. These cables are forming a circuit. The same current is passing through both cables. We'll increase the current. Watch what happens. The lower cable begins to smolder and eventually burst into flames. Residue begins to drop onto the floor, spreading the flames even further. Meanwhile, the Rexam mineral cable continues to operate as normal. Rexam mineral insulated cable does not burn. It does not add to any sort of combustion. It will not add energy to a fire, and it does not stop working. It will continue to operate safely for over 3 hours, providing plenty of time for safe evacuation or for the fire to be tackled and put under control. As these tests graphically show, to simply ensure that fire-resistant cable complies with British, European and in many cases worldwide standards is simply not sufficient. Specifiers, designers, installers, buyers and project owners should be aware of the limitations of relying purely on the certification to the standards when making their cable choices. At Rexam Mineral Cables, we believe these standards should go further. The standards should ensure cables perform safely in all situations, including elevated temperature, as demonstrated in this presentation. Rexam Mineral Cables, the only true fire survival cables.